What's up, you guys? Welcome to the TechCity Podcast. My name is Bella Rozokoji Duruji, and today's edition of the podcast is something you should grab a cup of coffee, tea, whatever your liquid is. Just grab a cup and sit down, relax, maybe get some popcorn. It's going to be super interesting, and I'm sure it's going to be 1,000% insightful. Our guest today on the podcast is someone who's gone from co-founding a business to being brand communications expert for tons and tons of companies that you may have heard of or not heard of, but who've got a very, very solid brand image in the eyes and minds of tons of people. And she has also, in many senses, made brand communications a mainstay. It is now mainstream. It is an institution on its own, and it is paying bills of so many people because people like her have taken the initiative to carry on with this and use their giftings for impact, basically. I would like for us to please make welcome, first off, Tega Odia.
I was waiting for the introduction. I was just looking. I was like, okay.
Had you in the first half, didn't I?
My name is Tega Odia.
Yes.
Nice to be here.
And our guest on the podcast today is none other than the super creative, incredibly beautiful,
oh my God,
sublime, Blessing Abeng.
I'm blushing.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
It's
thank
so
you
good
for
to have
having
you on
me
the
here.
podcast.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for choosing to come for this. I know it's a very busy time for you, but thank you for taking the time to be on the podcast. So for as many who don't know you in the sense of being a brand communications expert, and I know a few other things that you definitely do in your pastime, give us a 30-second alternative intro.
Okay, so how I like to introduce myself these days is that I'm a creator and a catalyst, someone who just likes to be the catalyst to make things happen, to make people's lives better. And I've done that in so many ways, right? So I've been the CMO and co-founder of a tech company that eventually got acquired by Flutterwave, which is one of the few unicorns we have in Africa. I'm the co-founder and director of communications at Ingressive for Good, which is a nonprofit dedicated to increasing the earning power of African youths. And we're doing that through tech. And so far, we've been able to train over 150,000 people in just 2 years.
Wow.
And we've built a community of over 250,000 people. It's insane.
That's a whole country. Some of those
Honestly.
countries.
Do you
understand?
Now you understand why I'm a fanboy.
Tega was totally fanboying Blessing when he came in. But yeah, you did mention that you were co-founder for a company that got acquired by Flutterwave, and that's Disha.
Yeah.
These guys got me. They got me. I had a Disha page. I still have it. But talk to us about your time at Disha. What inspired Disha? Walk us through that journey.
Oh, okay. So this journey starts a bit, let's take a few steps back.
Okay.
I was running a community called Startup Grind.
Right.
I and my partner had started we didn't start it, but we had built a Lagos chapter here in Lagos because at the time, first, I was working at an agency and I saw all these big budgets, right? The big companies had, global brands had to spend. However, on the other side of that were startups, founders, and entrepreneurs who had great solutions but didn't know how to tell their stories, didn't know how to capture the value that they had to offer. And it wasn't that they just didn't know, but they also didn't have the budget to compete. So I kept wondering, how can I help these people? So I had a little startup that I was using to sort of help startups figure out their stories, their value, and just better communicate it. That led me to think, it's not enough to have a startup that's doing this. What is the way that I can add value to the community? I didn't find an answer. My partner just woke up one day and said, Blessing, there's this really big community in Silicon Valley, Startup Grind. They're here to educate, inspire, and connect people. Let's do it. Let's inspire and educate and connect people in Lagos. And I'm like, can I add this to my, to the pile of work I already have? It's like, no, I don't want to. And he's like, but you'll be the best team member. I'm like, okay, great. So we started, and one of the people that we invited was the original founder of Disha. Then he was running his own agency, and then he started this later on. Evans. So he started this later on, and he also had one of his other co-founders, Rufus, who was the CTO at the time. And so they started it. It was going well. However, the sad roadblock became, and I was a big fan, they didn't have to pay me to use Dish. I was one of the first customers to actually pay for it. I was excited about this product. Nobody used to ask me to post. I just post and talk about it and love it. But a couple of months down the line, I think 5 months after Disha was founded, I came back from San Francisco and they called me up and they're like, Blessing, let's have a meeting. We need to talk to you. I'm like, what's happening? Why this sudden urgency? And they said, we've been stagnant for a while. We haven't grown above like 1,000+ people, and we want you to help us grow. We know you're good at this. We want you to help us with our comms. Want you to, reposition us, everything. Let's go the whole 9 yards. And I'm like, okay. Are you sure? They're like, yeah. And so they brought me on as CMO and co-founder. And just right after I started, we began to see 100% month-on-month growth. We built a stellar community. Some of the campaigns that we did were so interesting. I remember we were just talking about
the Will Smith one.
Yeah, the Will Smith one, April Fools. And then we also had that Easter one where it was like 12 disciples. And that was really fun, where we paid like pro for 12 people. And we're like, Jesus paid it all. You don't have to worry. That was really, really interesting. So we had really interesting campaigns. And we now ended up building a strong creator community. And people just loved Disha. Like, they didn't even care if they were paying or they were not paying. They were just advocates, lovers. And that was just one of the most interesting things I'd ever seen, Yeah, and that was fun. In summary.
That's pretty interesting, actually.
Yeah.
So, how did you get the inspiration to, start Ingressive?
Oh, okay. Wow. I think you would soon notice that I have a streak for not starting things. I join. And I guess that's what catalysts are, or who catalysts are. You just join and accelerate. And that's what I've been doing all my life. Remember I joined my partner at Startup Grind, then I joined Disha. And now, through Startup Grind again, we invited Maya to speak at our event, and just encountering her and my partner, she was just enamored. She liked us. She was like, oh, you guys, we should build something together. We should do something together. I'm like, I'm tired. That's always my first response. Like, I have so much work. I always do. But she was really interesting. So we kept in touch. We're even friends for a bit. And she started Ingressive Capital, which was a venture capital firm. That went well. And over time, they noticed the gap during the period where they were running Ingressive Advisory, right, which was the full company of everything. Ingressive Advisory was what birthed the VC firm, right? And then there were parts of it that couldn't go with the VC firm, which was the CSR campaigns that they used to run. They would pay school fees for a group of people. They'll buy laptops. They would take students on training. They'll bring Figma around to come train students in Africa. It was just a lot of interesting things going on. But that couldn't go with the VC firm. And so it had to stay or be tossed. However, while running the VC firm, a lot of startups and founders, they always think that money is their biggest problem. Until you give them money and then they find out, oh wait, money is not our biggest problem. We need talent, And then on the other side of that are people who want to be these talents, but they don't have access to the right skills or to be able to afford the training that they need to actually, take those, to become those talents that they need to be. It's expensive, to be honest. And there's also a big reality that, there are not a lot of youths that are earning $1 per day in Nigeria, at least.
Stark reality.
It's so sad.
It's painful.
Now, beyond that big part, tech doesn't take that long to learn, depending on which area of tech. So we focus on the ones that obviously will not take a lot of time to learn, that are more mainstream, in demand. 5 core skills: design, data, software development, product management, and marketing. So once you have the core skill, you could just practice, and then you'd become amazing. So we decided to focus on that. Micro scholarships, we give people micro scholarships. We'll give them laptops, tools, resources that they need to be able to, get the technical training for the skills that they need. And then we would place them in jobs. And that got me. I was like, yeah, I love this. I would do this. And so I jumped in as the director of communications at the time. And less than a year in, we had hit some really pretty numbers that we weren't expecting. And we had closed some really interesting partnerships. We had great partnerships. Like, we partnered with Facebook then. So we partnered with Facebook, now Meta. We're partnered with Coursera. DataCamp had reached out to us. We're partnered with them. It was great. Yeah, and during one of those our donor calls where we were pitching to ask for money, I would just spit in numbers and they were asking questions, just giving it to them. And they're like, Blessing, you're just an honorary co-founder because you just, yes, you were a founding member, but this is a lot.
Right.
This is much. And, would you like to come on the team and just be a co-founder? And so I came on the team and became a co-founder.
As usual, joined the team.
I joined and we've grown exponentially since then as well. So growth is something that follows me. So I'm proud of myself, but I'm also proud of the work that I've been able to do.
So my very first, I guess, contact of you was on Twitter. You shared something at your Miss_Einstein page.
Yes, I remember.
And I thought I could resonate so well with that. And then I followed you. And it was a really nice story, very well woven, gained a lot of retweets. And sometimes when you sit back and look at people who are in brand communications like yourself, some of them are like, I started on Twitter. And people also sometimes feel like if you are great at tweeting and you're getting all those retweets, then you will have a future in brand communications. Does that play any role? And how did that exactly start? How did you start off as a brand comms person?
Okay, so my story is very interesting. I was an aspiring medical doctor. Annoying at that, because back then when we would play within the compound, right? If neighbors would say, "Hello, Blessing," I say no, or visitors, I'd be like, "No, don't call me Blessing, call me Dr. Blessing." This is the whole thing. My dad bought me lab coat. I had everything that I needed to be a doctor.
Wow,
as a child.
I hadn't even gone to med school or anything.
Oh no, but I was really fascinated by the idea of, saving someone's life because I'd witnessed someone save my dad's. So it just made a big impression on me. Fast forward to me being an adult, I was now going to be a neurosurgeon. I didn't want to do the simple medicine. I'm like,
let me do a very tough one.
Yeah, I want the one that is, the brain. I'm crazy about how the brain works. How is it possible that the brain can die? The human being would be alive, but the human being is brain dead. So many things fascinated me. I used to watch, I watched shows. I read Ben Carson's books. I was ready.
That's the starter pack.
Do you understand? I was ready. Then my dad was like, "Oh, you're too young to go to med school." And I was really tiny. I mean, if you see me now, you'd understand how tiny I was. And so he was like, "Do a paramedical course in Covenant University first. Let's see how that plays out." So I go ahead. Actually, we go ahead and choose a course, biochemistry. He's like, "Oh, look at this one, biochemistry, biology and chemistry." And I'm like, good idea. But what
enough.
What I wasn't registered at the time was that the bio was short and the chemistry was long. I should have known. But I went. It was interesting. I had a good time. But I did my internship in biochemistry, which is where the sad story begins. Did the plant part of things, and then I think it's called phytomedicine or something. Then did the virology part of things, which focused on viruses. And I had to work in a company or rather an organization where we were focused on HIV patients, checking their viral load just to be sure that they were within safe. Yeah. And, that was when it dawned on me that, yes, medicine is glamorous. Yes, I want to save lives, but what about the lives that I can't save? How do I face their family and tell them, sorry, your loved one died by my hands? Would I be able to live with the guilt? I'm sure maybe I'd have been able to answer that question at some point. But almost every doctor or surgeon that I've spoken to always has that one person that they lost, that they've always sort of had this guilt that they lived with. And that was not working for me. Yeah, that's number one. And then the second part was it wasn't scalable, right? There's just a finite number of people that you can actually reach, and I wasn't about that life. So when I came back to school after my IT, I was just like, is there another way? Is there another way to save lives? I'm interested. I want to know. I was curious. I went ahead to join a school club. In that school club, it was supposed to be a public speaking club. It was led by my registrar at the time. And he gave us this random assignment. Go and write a business plan and a proposal and come and pitch it, right? Execute it and whatnot. I did it. I loved it. Which is weird because people hate writing business plans. I did it. I loved it. Everybody was like, my marketing side, stellar. Like, it's amazing. They said, pay me money to write business plans.
Wow. In school.
Loved it. I was researching on my own. I was learning on my own. And case in point, branding and communications wasn't even popular then.
At the time.
Yeah, so business plans and proposals were more
You're more of a thing.
Yeah, more of a thing. People would pay you for proposals and all of those things. My friend looked at my marketing plan one day and she's like, listen, this thing you're doing, they're calling it branding these days. Or like the way you combine business knowledge with creative knowledge is dope. Go to Orange Academy, which was a school for branding and communications then, and just try it out, And I Googled it first. Thank you for your recommendation, but I have to check.
Yeah.
And I checked and I loved what it was about. It wasn't about just your logo or your font or your color or story or your name. It wasn't any of those things. It was all of those things working in tandem to, create a personality. It was strong. It's what like your customers think about when they think about you. It's like every touch point that they interact with you, branding is happening. A perception is forming and you are capable of steering that perception left, right, center, or making it work for you, making it not work for you. Fast forward, I studied branding and communications. I loved it. I realized, oh my God, businesses are saving lives.
Yeah.
Every single individual is saving a life because we all need each other. Yeah. We can't exist, in silos. You need to wear clothes. Somebody has to make those clothes. You need to rub cream. Somebody has to make the creams, And it's just, you want to eat food. Somebody has to make the food. Somebody has to farm it. We all need each other. We can't all do it by ourselves. And that just gave me a whole new perspective, right? And that's how I got into branding. Then I worked with startups, agency, multinational brands, and just kept solidifying my hands, but relearning things, and changing some narratives. There were things that I was taught that I let go of, and things I discovered on my own. There are concepts that I've been able to build now. I'm teaching people. It's been an interesting journey. So yes, you can write Twitter threads. Yes, you can tell really good stories. Storytelling is just one part. I talk about branding a lot, you guys. You just got me started. Identity, communications, credibility. Those are 3 key things that make up branding. So if you're a great storyteller, you probably fall under a good brand communications person, right? Doesn't mean you're a brand manager or a brand strategist. Yeah. So just knowing the difference is one of the things that could really give you an edge in choosing your career.
So it was like self-taught.
School taught, but self-edited to match what I wanted. Yeah.
So you made mention when you were talking about how you were able to create business plans and had these unique marketing strategies for your businesses. Now the thing is that many people see branding as marketing. Is there some kind of like is it the same thing or it's different?
No, it's very, very different. But they work hand in hand, to be honest.
Okay.
Branding doesn't have to result in sales. Like you have different goals for doing different things, right? So as I said, it's who you are. So let's use you as an example, right? Or individuals as an example. Branding would be your whole genetic makeup. Well, not your genetic makeup, but your whole makeup. All the features that make you special and unique, that makes you identifiable when you go out on the streets. People can say, oh yeah, that's Tega. If I wanted to describe it to Bella Rose, I would be like, Tega, that guy that wears glasses, the dark guy. You guys, if you're hearing this podcast, I am out here describing our wonderful Tega, right? And so when I'm done doing those things, which are your external features, I would still talk about your internal features. Like, oh, he speaks like this, he's warm, he's gentle, blah, blah, blah. But with marketing, it's like you're selling yourself.
Okay.
It's like you go into a space and you're trying to tell someone, I have this thing that, would be useful to you. And so now it's no longer just about my features because those things help. Those things help you form your perception. But then now that you've formed the perception, I'm also giving you something to, in exchange, like a value proposition, something of value. And so in that moment, that's really what marketing does for people, helping you create something of value to make people's lives better, to share things of value to make people's lives better. So people go about marketing in different ways. It could be content marketing. But it's just about making enough noise to get people's attention and to get them to eventually convert, right? But branding doesn't have to be about making noise. It's about forming the perception and helping people just sort of relate and understand.
Maybe like creating some kind of human touch for the company to the target audience.
Exactly. I always say there's no B2B, B2C way of thinking. It's H to H because behind every business, there's a human being involved. Behind every tech, there's a human being that coded it or created it to make it look as human as possible. We're in the business of gisting with humans. We like to connect. Yeah. We're connecting beings. So it's important to think of your business. Like if my business was a human being, what kind of a human being would it be? What's the personality of that human being? Who would it be? How would it relate? Who would it be relating to? Who can connect with my business? And that's a whole different thing around branding, right? It's creating that energy that marketing can now jump on.
Yeah.
And then sustaining that energy again comes back to branding. And marketing would continue to feed off.
So I'm curious about whether branding is the same for individuals as it is for organizations, or are there any differences?
I mean, they have similarities and there are a couple of differences as well, because, you know, with companies, the stakes are higher, depending on even how big the company is, also depending on how big your budget is. And with humans and individuals, it's easy to say, you know, this is the thing, my personality. One of my favorite examples, let me say, Obama, for example, has a logo.
Yeah.
Do you know his logo? So when I say Obama, what comes to your mind?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. And what picture do you see?
The feast.
Is it the
Yeah.
feast?
To me, you asked what I think.
I don't know that it's
like,
the feast. I think it's that picture of him that looks a bit edited.
Most people picture his face. You know, like it's like
His
Obama
face.
is like, you immediately think of his face. If I say Oprah, you immediately think of her face. Like you immediately think of her, not her logo. Oprah's logo is that big Oprah, right?
Yeah.
But not a lot of people think of that when you mention their names first. However, with businesses, when I call Apple, you think of the product and the logo, right? It's registered. That's because most businesses do not necessarily have a face. It's an entity, it's an organization. So what your identity does for you is that it helps you be recognizable. So with your personal brand, you could use your sense of style. You could use your perfumes to make a statement. You could decide, you know, I'm going to wear my hair this way and I'm going to be known for that. And so immediately people see you, they just recognize you and it's memorable. In fact, when they see other people do things like you, they're like, this reminds me of this person, right? Which is why I also tell people, try not to copy. Try to be inspired, but don't copy. Because when you copy, you are re-emphasizing the brand of the person you are copying.
Yeah.
You're not making your own self known. And so that's really important to be able to, you know, differentiate, understand, and know. So those are some of the tiny differences. Also with businesses, there are more stakeholders. You could create different other individuals to be in front for you, right? But with individuals, it's you, it's just you and the things that you do, and also the kind of people that you collaborate with. This one is interesting. Please don't collaborate with people just because of the amount of followers that they have or just because of the clout. Like, look for people who also share your values.
Wasn't that easy for you to say? Because right now, vanity metrics are a thing. And even brands ride off those kinds of things.
But they're not sustainable. You know how you would see a big celebrity endorsing a specific brand and you're just like, but he doesn't even use it. The fans are not stupid. Your customers are not stupid. You need to give them some credit. You know, you think you are getting it right. What you get, except your goal is awareness.
Okay.
And it's always based on your goal. If your goal is awareness, that you want more people to see it or talk about it, great. But if it's not for conversion, that's fine. You can do what you want. However, you get more authenticity if you hire somebody to be your brand ambassador that actually uses your product and actually loves it.
Not a celebrity that one day will say, I'm using this
Today
skincare
you use
product.
this one.
The other one, they're using that
2 weeks.
that skincare
In fact, 2 weeks is a stretch because next post might be another brand. And it's just very inauthentic.
Like an Android ambassador tweeting
with his iPhone. Exactly. It's not authentic. Why not just find somebody who is a diehard Android, never gonna leave Android fan and give that person such a good experience that whenever people think of that person, they're like, I'm going to use this thing because of this person. You can make it so, you know, smooth, so honest. And that's the thing about branding. It requires a level of consistency. You can't be minimalist on the device, but you're minimalist on Instagram. But when I see you in real life, you're not minimalist, you're avant-garde.
Yeah.
And then I see you, it comes to your space, it's like cluttered and stuff. I'm like, but you're a minimalist brand. You get, there's no business between a vegan and KFC. I say it all the time. There's no kind of collaboration you want to be doing because vegans are very strict. They're like, we don't eat animal products. Yeah. We don't even use byproducts of animal products. So you wouldn't see them wear leather shoes or leather belt. It's veganism. It's like a Christian carrying juju. You know, it's off-brand. The brand has to be consistent, if you get what I mean. And so if you think about it that way, it will make it easier for you to be able to make decisions about the kind of people that you collaborate with. Because once you collaborate, you're endorsing each other. You are shared, like you're permeating into each other. It's like saying, I trust this person trusts me back. Give me their trust, like the trust you have for this person, transfer it to me. The trust that person has, transfer.
Yeah.
Do you get? It doesn't really.
A Christian carrying juju. That's a quote. Off brand.
So I've been in a room with product managers, project managers, and they've often said some terms, brand, brand identity and branding. They somehow make it look or sound like different things entirely. So, what's the need for them, and how do they help impact a company's image?
That's such a brilliant question. Okay, so let's talk about branding. Branding is the journey. Remember, it's who you are. There's where you want to be. That journey of getting from where you are now to where you want to be is the process of branding. It's a journey. It's not a destination. Okay. It's going to forever be. Like think about yourself when you were a child and now you've grown so much. Your name is still the same probably.
No, it's the same.
It's the
same. Yeah.
Okay, not everybody
I changed it.
Exactly, right? So, but you're growing, and because you're growing, you're evolving, and I think that's the word to use. You're evolving. You're picking new things. You're learning new things, and you're making those new things define. You're also staying up to date with the times, right? We're no longer wearing leaves, so you can't come now in this. I mean, you can, but you are choosing not to, right? So you won't wear leaves now.
No, not at all.
Thank you very much.
Except it's a brand thing.
Except it's your brand. Shout out to Adam and Eve. But yeah, like that's the process of branding. And who you are can be confusing because there's this, should I say, swinging pendulum between who you were and who you're trying to be. Yeah. And there's just this middle point where you are, even in the next minute, by just listening to this podcast, some of your mindsets would have changed and it would impact how you're going to do a couple of things going forward, right? And so that's you evolving. That's branding. However, the process of that, building a brand, requires 3 key things, like I said earlier: identity, communication, credibility. Now, the identity part of things are the things that you do or, have that makes you recognizable and memorable. Do you get what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so that's the thing that makes the impact, I see it, I recognize it immediately because I know what it is. So those are things like probably your name, your logo, your colors, your fonts, all of these things. And those are even just external, visual identity. Mm-hmm. So branding is very pregnant.
Yeah.
A brand is very pregnant. So when you say visual identity designer or brand visual identity designer, it means that communications can wait. Credibility, PR, all those things, they can wait. In fact, non-visual identity, brand strategy can wait. But you see this brand visual identity, after you've done your brand strategy, come to me. That's what that means, right? So your brand strategy is going to focus on your intrinsic things, right? And your goals, and say, what are you trying to achieve? What kind of personality do you have? How do we want to express this personality? It's like digging deep. The first step of branding is really digging deep. It's self-awareness. If you're not aware, if you don't know what you are made of, you don't know what you're trying to do, yeah. And so that's why that's why it's so important. So once we know who we are, it's now easier for us to communicate that's who we are to our audience. But you don't know who you are just in silos. You also need to take time out while you're doing your self-awareness and self-search. Think about it also in terms of the people that you're serving or the people that you're reaching out to. You need to know your target audience. If you don't know who your target audience is, you can't meet them in the middle. I always draw a Venn diagram, right? This is me, this is my target audience. That middle point, I want something, my target audience wants something. That middle point, that's the sweet spot. So how much can I give that would be enough for my target audience to feel satisfied? And I would still be happy, because your happiness is still important and their satisfaction is important. So that balance, that's the sweet spot. Exactly.
So when I hear you say that, the process, right, that you have just listed, sometimes it feels like, in a sense, only big companies that have a budget, are the ones who can consider that entire journey. A small business, for instance, is thinking, I want to do my brand. I want to have a logo. I want to have a nice social media handle, maybe even have a website to just jazz things up a bit. But if you could sort of break down that process for a small business who in their minds think that the be-all of having a brand is having social media handle and the logo. What would the process be like for small businesses?
Okay. I mean, I think it's very important to say this now, that your brand, whether you know that you're branding or you don't know, you're already branding. Whether you like it or not, you already have a brand. There's already a way that people see you. You're already perceived a certain way, right? The question now is, do you like the way that you're perceived? That's the question, which is the thing about branding, again, that you asked me. Yeah. At the end of the day, what you're trying to achieve is that you want your intended brand to become something close to your perceived brand. So if I intend for myself to be perceived as luxurious, but everybody else is not seeing me as like it's Kim Kardashian now. People are not saying that Kim Kardashian is not fashionable, but her intention was to be fashionable.
Yeah.
That's problematic. So she now has to figure out, how do I work my way, which is that thing I said, where you are now, where you want to be. So it's like, how do I work my way to convince these people that I am indeed fashionable? Or is there some sort of truth in what they're saying? And how can I borrow from their truth to, meet them in the middle? If I plan to be luxurious, but these people see me as an everyday person, do I really want to be seen as an everyday person? If not, I would automatically tweak it. If yes, I would go back to, researching what an everyday person looks like. What are the things that I'm doing that's giving everyday person vibes, right? And how can I harness that to make it, work to my advantage? So those are two different tandems that you can go. Yes, it's nice. I kudos to every small business owner who at least even knows that they need a logo or need, a co-handle. Big ups, you're trying. Well done. Still, I don't think that you need a lot of, I understand why it's big budget companies that can afford it, because even myself, my price is not cheap. I get that. I also understand that there are a lot of people out there who claim to be branding people, but they don't even go this deep. Like they don't they just tell you, oh, come, let's do logo for you. What's your favorite color? Say blue. You say, nah, let's do blue. You say you like bird, let's draw bird. And it's so difficult, and it's really interesting because as a branding person, in some sense, you're a doctor. You can't just prescribe.
Yeah.
You have to sit down and listen first. What are the symptoms? What's this person saying? What do they want? In some sense, I'm a doctor. Oosh.
You still are.
Tell me, my dear, scream it. Yeah, and so you have to do that. And so if you're out there and you want to build your brand, I think my first thing would be reflect. What is it that you want to be known for? What are the 5 adjectives you would describe your business with? If your business was a person, what 5 adjectives would you describe that person as? Ask your friends or people who are close to you or people who are already taking that, who know what you're doing, Sha. Ask them, what 5 adjectives do they describe you as well? Another thing I do is tell people to take 16personalities.net, I think, test.
Okay.
Answer the questions like your business was a human being. So imagine that your business is a human being now. They say, oh, would you fetch water for an older man? That's not what they'll ask you. But for example, right? Answer it. If your business is a snobbish brand, it's okay. See, you don't have to conform to what everybody else is doing. If your business, there's a brand that they're so luxury that they're snobbish. If you can't afford their service,
that's the
they snob you.
Brand.
There are plenty to say, but
Many.
go,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah. Bangs and Olufsen.
yes, those people. It's like you cannot afford those, so we're not even talking to you. We're talking to but to their customers who can afford them, they're very kind. Right, but you that you cannot afford, they make you feel bad. You now be angry that you want to aspiring.
You
be aspiring. Your chest will be paining you. You'll be sleeping at night. You'll be seeing it in your dream because you're so annoyed. And so that's a strategy, and it works for them. Right? If you already know yourself, you don't have to be friendly to everyone. We don't all have friendly relationships. And I'm noticing a new trend where everybody's trying to be Gen Z dancing on TikTok. My dear, we have different relationships that exist in our real lives. We have relationships with our grandparents. We have relationships with our friends, our sisters, our not so close friends, our colleagues, younger ones, older ones. These are different types of relationships, and those are opportunities for you to explore different types of relationships that you can choose to have with your customers. So you can decide to be your customer's big sister, and that's what your brand is known for. You could be a sage where you speak to them like you are a person of wisdom. Thank you very much. And his brand is strong. Do you see that?
It is.
And if Peter Odoche comes to TikTok today and he starts dancing, I'll be concerned. I expect him to be on TikTok dropping some
wise words.
Exactly. Do you understand? And we will follow him specifically for that. We don't want anything else. Just give us that. We're fine. And those are the things that people do not know. We don't all have to take trends the exact same way. You can reinterpret trends to match your brand, to match the tone that you want it to match, right? So these are all tools. A spoon cannot tell me how to use it. It's a tool. I choose how I want to use my spoon. If I'm going to use it to eat spaghetti, it's my choice. If I'm going to use it as a shovel, it's my choice. And that's how you should see social media as well, as a platform to, it's a tool. Yeah. So use it to your advantage, right? And those are just a few things I think can help you. Also ask yourself, what value am I adding to the world? What are things that I know about? What are the things that people ask me a lot of questions to help them with? Why do people gravitate towards me? Those are very interesting and important questions you can ask both as a personal brand and as a business. What other ones? So I have a full worksheet, but you guys, the best thing is that I have a 9 piece of branding book, ebook. It's free. You can actually just Google 9 P's of branding, Blessing Abeng, you'll find it. But also Google yourself. That's an interesting one. Google yourself. And if you check it, do you like what you see? Do you not like it? What would you wish were different? There was a lady who stopped herself for years just because she was one of my clients. She just stopped herself because every time she Googled her name, there's a lady who's always wearing bikini. And she's like, I don't want to be known as this babe that's wearing bikini. And I'm like, but the only way for you to get this babe out of the picture is for you to create so much that when they Google your name, they will see you. They will go to page 8 to go and find bikini. Do you understand? Yeah. And so that was life-changing for her. That's the thing about branding, gives you clarity. You stop chasing after the noise. You know exactly what you want. You filter through that noise and you make your impact. And now she's millions of views on YouTube. She's making money. She's been invited to international conferences to speak. She's making such a big impact, but she stopped herself. Can you imagine? So it's so important to be able to, filter through that noise and just ask yourself questions. Branding is really about asking yourself a lot of questions. Last example so that we can move on. If you think about Apple, which is one of my favorite brands when it comes to branding, Oga Steve was very, very specific and intentional about minimalism. Yeah. From the motherboard of the phone, techies hate it. Like, they're like, why would you make it so organized? Like, it's messes with us. They complain. Not all techies, obviously, but some people complain, right? However, it works for the customers. Motherboard that people cannot see. I mean, he made it look neat. He insisted on a certain type of calligraphy. He used the skills to make an extra impact, right? So don't think too hard about the product. Don't think too hard about the service. Don't think too hard about the name, right? It's the little things that can make the difference. You can innovate around your process. One of my favorite stories to tell is about a woman who cleaned the lights. Mm-hmm. She was a cleaner. She used to clean people's houses. And every time after she's done cleaning, she would go and meet her potential target audience on the bus. I'm at the bus stop and say, what can I do to clean better? And all these people would be giving her advice. Sweep, mop, use these products, use that product, do it in this angle, do it in that angle. But this woman who would never used to answer her, just always quiet by the edge. And one day she just sat down with the woman and said, I always ask this question. You don't answer me. So answer me today. And the woman said, everybody cleans, everybody sweeps. And while you're cleaning and everything, this dust rises up. Nobody remembers to clean the lights, to clean the bulbs, to clean all of these things, right? And it just accumulates dust. Next time you clean the lights. And she tried it. Everywhere was shining. The people that she cleaned the lights for, they were asking her, what did you do? Nothing new. She just cleaned the lights. So sometimes it's not something big. It's not a service that you have to tweak. It might just be your communication, how you engage with your audience. If you're late, how you communicate. There's a period when Nigeria used to tell us before they take lights, they don't do that anymore. We're sad. And you hate it. Yeah. Now you're doing the same thing to your customers. You're not going to deliver on time. You're not telling... but you're shouting, Nigeria is not telling me before they take lights. You are the same. You're Nigeria in the same boat. Or I buy a luxury bag from you, $10,000. You now deliver with Okada. Is that luxury? Like, be consistent.
Deliver that thing in a G class, please.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Imagine like a very clean pilot-looking man drives over in a G-Wagon and he comes down and he delivers my Birkin.
You order again?
What?
Only order. I would tell the world.
Everybody.
I would be like, oh, my Birkin just came in class and style. You don't understand. Please, dear. So you guys, these are little things you can do to sort of help your brand be better. But if you have more questions, feel free to DM me anytime on Instagram. I'll answer.
We'll leave her handle in the description.
Yep.
Yeah. So well, moments ago you said branding also involves evolving. Mm-hmm. So I've seen brands like InDriver. That they were able to change from InDriver, the name from InDriver to InDrive. Some people would actually feel like that change is, attributed to marketing. But like after listening to it, I feel like it's more of like
branding
just
for sure.
Specifically branding. Mm-hmm. So that's I'm just trying to say what I've understood by
just
InDriver
to add
stuff.
To what you
just
have
to
said.
add.
Yeah,
So
I love it.
So I have a question. So for you to start your own business, is it necessary? Because you've been saying things like joining as a brand communicator. You've been joining, you've not created anything.
I've been joining. I created, but I closed it
okay.
because of Disha, because I needed to focus.
join.
Yeah, I love joining.
So is it compulsory for you to have a brand communicator as a co-founder, or is it you have to hire somebody as, maybe
I mean,
a team member?
It helps if the person is your co-founder, because it just makes everybody's life easier, right?
And affordable.
Is it affordable to have one?
I mean, affordability is relative depending on where the business is. The people who don't pay anything, and just based on the understanding that you have a stake in this business that you really, really believe in, that's enough to be a co-founder. You just sign the documents, because we're all starting with nothing, right? So that exists, that world exists. But there's also a world where you can afford to pay, right? And so if you can afford to pay, that world exists. The different levels of things that might be most important depending on the kind of business that you're running. So if you're running a tech business, for example, I will prioritize, even just because of investment purposes, right? I would prioritize a CTO over a CBO, like a chief branding or chief marketing officer, because you need to own your tech. The tech needs to be at home. Else, investors are going to not smile at you.
Yeah.
Even myself, I'll be looking at your investment like, that means your tech guy can just run. He can just resign
Things
and
can
go.
happen.
Yeah.
No, dear. Do you understand? However, as I said, the branding process is already happening, whether you like it or not. So you could consult. You could ask for help. You could say, okay, based on this little information that I know, can I consult with someone? You could have friends. It's like law. A lot of us don't have personal lawyers. Well, me, I have. But some people do have.
I could be a lawyer.
Do you get?
I'm a lawyer.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I just made a new lawyer friend. Woo! Yes, and so a lot of us may not be able to, or a lot of people may not be able to afford having a personal lawyer, right? However, you might have lawyer friends that you can run things by. But it has to be a mutually beneficial relationship. You can't be the one always running things by them. They cannot run things by you. Please be a person of value, right? But yes, so you could have a branding person that you could always speak to and have conversations with. You could do one-on-one consultations just to get the beginning, like the framework. It's a very important investment, because if you get it right in that beginning, it will save you a lot of costs later. All those rebranding, everything, you won't have to overly be crazy about doing it. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can hire, you can have as a co-founder, you can just consult, but it's nice to have, especially a brand strategy.
So I want to ask about, on a personal level, one thing that I hear people say a lot of times is, package yourself well. Packaging is very important.
Yeah.
And sometimes people say packaging is branding. Is it true?
It's like logo is branding kind of thing. It's just a part. It's just a part, right? I give this example all the time, and I say packaging attracts. It's content that keeps.
Yeah.
Right? If you give me a gift, Bella, let me not use you. If somebody gave me a gift, could I give you lots of examples? But if somebody gave me a gift and this gift was coming to Lagos, the person has hyped me. That person, your birthday, by the way, my birthday was last month. But thank you so much.
We owe you something.
I'll take it. And so you say, Blessing, I have this big gift for you. Big gifts. It's coming in style. Then when I see one big truck with, those ones that can carry container, big, really pretty. Then the container is not just a container. It's like tied with a bow looking. It's already turning heads. People are even running with this is come and see what is inside this gift. Me and my heart is going. Is it a car? Is it a prepackaged home that I can just, what is it? What is in this big did this person buy me a whole, new wardrobe? My brain is going.
Yeah.
They open the first container and I see another carton. They open that carton. I see another carton. But all of them are fine. My heart is still doing, bing bing. It go mad. My camera is on. People are videoing me.
First reaction.
They won't rag.
Aye.
Now falls on the floor from the empty carton. How would you feel?
Heartbroken.
It's not even hard. The shame, the embarrassment, the disgust, the insults that I will rain on top of you. Oh,
You're
my
even doing
God.
an Instagram live while you're doing it.
It will be. I will write book. Because really, I mean, it's really disappointing when you create the high hopes and you don't live up to it.
Yeah.
So don't even do it if you're not going to live up to it. But if you are sure that you can live up to, what you're promising, because again, oh God, branding is about trust. Trust, right? I need to know you first to buy from you. Yeah. I may not know your name, but I know my problem. I will Google my problem. When I Google my problem, will you pop up? When you pop up, I would now want to get to know you, right? Then when I know you, I'd say, I like you. And then now I like you. Let me even see if I can buy from you. Imagine that I now buy after all this process that I've known you, I've liked you. you know, disappoints me because everything was packaging. It's really, and it's so hard to win trust back.
Yeah.
Right? So don't even do it. But if you must, I would say, don't fake it till you make it. Grow into it, right? Go gradually. Don't go and do packaging that
doesn't live up to what you're
also know your audience, right? If your audience is luxury, packaging is so important, but in a different kind of way. It's not packaging as per packaging, but it's like creating a memorable experience, right? And that matters to them. So it means you have to, when you walk into some of the luxury stores, they'll give you champagne. It smells a certain kind of way. They have this really cute coffee. When you're shopping there, it's different. It hits different than doing Ben and Select. Do you get what I mean? and so that's different. Like a Ben and Select person is not going to be tearing their shit about whether the nylon should be cute or nice, except they're now selling on Instagram and stuff like that. And they wouldn't call it Ben and Select. They'll say pre-owned.
Yeah.
Thrift.
Stores.
Yeah. So exactly. So please, just don't package for packaging's sake. Packages attract, yes, but content keeps. So as you're developing your package, be developing your content. But remember that you have to look the way you want to be addressed, which is really a thing. First impression doesn't happen when we've had a conversation. It happens immediately I set my eye on you. So immediately I set my eye on you, I'm already building my perception. It's now up to you to, you know, set that perception high, or, you know, it's up to you, really. You have so much more control than you know.
All right. So a while ago, a friend of mine, two friends of mine or so were studying, I think it was brand communications at the university, and they were given an assignment. The assignment was to change the perception of a person in the eye of the public, right? And they reached out to me and were like, please, Bella, I need help. They are saying that we should rebrand this person, right? Example, this is just a random example, please. Say the president, for instance, right? They say, rebrand the president as somebody who is quick to answer when things happen. And, you know, someone who is quick to answer, someone who really cares about the nation and who is also very youth friendly and maybe even tech savvy as well.
Yeah.
And they were so stuck. And, you know, it was a thing of PR not being a lie or based on falsehood and, you know, coming to the table with results. As a brand person, how do you go about that?
It's 100% possible. I think it's always important to start from the truth. That's one thing people don't know. Your branding should not be hiding anything. Like, it should not be made to conceal. It should just be made to reveal the things that you want it to reveal, right? And that's a whole different art. There's a film I can recommend that your friends can watch, which is Our Brand is Crisis.
Okay.
That was such a strong movie about how you could take someone's personality and just use it to their advantage in a way that gains them favor. So maybe we trying to make this person likable. It might not be about making that person likable. It might be about making that person less hated and more preferred. You know, what are the facts that we have? What are the things that we know about this person? No matter how crazy anyone is, they have vulnerabilities. Yeah. How can we pick on those vulnerabilities and show them as human with flaws and things like that? Those are places people would often start, which is why somebody can do something. So I don't know if you watched a movie and you started off hating the character. Then suddenly you realize, I'm liking this character. I'm not supposed to be liking this.
Human.
Yeah, do you understand? It's like, oh my God, I'm busy. I understand where you're coming from. Then later you now hate the character again. They try to do it with Game of Thrones, where people loved Khaleesi. Then suddenly, people start wondering like, Khaleesi, where to where? Like, how did you get here? Did you get? So it happens. It's possible to change human minds about different things. The things we perceive as good, the things we perceive with empathy, the things we're just mean about based on our, you know, personal experiences. You just have to find things that are relatable so the person sees themselves in that person or sees their own experience in that person, and then they're able to sort of relate. And that's where communication comes in. So it goes, that one would go beyond branding. Yes, we'll make the person look a certain way. Maybe it would play to some strengths. It's like fashion. They always advise that you dress in clothes that accentuate your features, right? So if you have a certain type of feature, you conceal with this, you accentuate with that. Exactly. Same thing for physical appearance, same thing for branding. But then communication now becomes your master key. It's like, how does this person talk? What is their tone of voice? Should it go higher? Should it be high pitched? Should it be lower? Does it instill confidence? What is it that I define as confidence? So you first have to do research first. to understand what these people see as kindness, what these people see as empathy, what are the kind of things that they like, and then go and match it. Remember that Venn diagram thing I talked about?
Yeah.
We'll also go and interview this other person and say, okay, what are your vulnerabilities? Blah, 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 blah. And we will find those middle grounds. And those are the things that we would focus on and leave the rest alone, right? Yeah. And that's really a very easy way to
I
get
hope they're watching.
I hope so. And run me my coins when you pass, add me to your thesis.
So you made mention of changing perspective, because I've seen it not just with companies, but like in the music industry, where you see Wikasani singing about love, and before you know it, he starts singing about.
I know my
heartbreak.
favorite example is Adekunle Gold. Did you see that rebrand? Oh,
Yes. From Good Boys
AG
to-
Baby is not
Yes.
Adekunle Gold.
to
It's not AG
AG
Baby.
This is AG Baby.
Yeah. What?
I mean,
I've not-
AG Baby and Adekunle Gold
are two different people. Absolutely.
Oh, okay. That's very interesting. And you also made mention about negative, maybe negative side of the business. Maybe something happens, and PR. How does PR tie into branding, and how do you change the customers or the targeted audience perspective towards from the negative to the positive?
I mean, that's like a public relations thing. The things that people trust already. If we want to instill fear in this country now, it's just to pay a couple of media houses to write all the negative stories. It's not that these things are not happening, but you just bring them under a microscope, right? And just sort of blow it all up. I remember when the bombings were happening, that was really happening. God, when I used to consume the news a lot, I was so scared. I didn't want to leave my house. Even NSAS, I think NSAS did that to me as well. It was like, this is really serious. But imagine that you removed yourself from that, right? You weren't reporting it. You weren't like, it would hit you differently. Just knowing that the extent at which something is shared or not shared can affect your perception about your bubble. Because we all have bubbles that we've created. So based on the information you're consuming, you are creating your safety or, your lack of safety, or you're realizing your lack of safety. So that's one superpower that PR organizations and PR can do for you. It can help you emphasize safety or reduce the emphasis on it. It can also help you heighten some things. It's like we can decide that a lot of PR people should be talking about one person. And the more you're just seeing that person everywhere, like, this person must be important. So, well, are they really, So those are things you can use PR to your advantage. Is PR is there to, it's public relations. Like we're relating to the public. So you're reaching the public to tell them about the existence of a person or a thing. And that's really where that is. You also don't use it just for existence and for reporting. You also use it to form and frame perception, right? Meaning you can drive the narrative differently. Maybe everybody's saying a negative thing. You as a journalist might dig deeper and say, okay, but this was where it came from. I remember the story of Anna Delvey, the lady who stole a lot of, I don't know if you guys watched that special on Netflix. Yeah, but it was a journalist who uncovered the other side of things, where we're trying to find her human side and see where was she coming from that she was able to build this and scam all these people on Wall Street. She must be a smart woman. So now she must be a smart woman, not necessarily that she's a fraud. As that's perception management. It's just recreating it in a very different way so that you can see other perspective. Because truly, if you really think about it, there's really no good and evil on the extreme side, right? When it comes, especially even if somebody died, you would want to ask, was it like the person just wake up and kill the person, or was the person self-defense? Was it self-defense? Because there is, somebody died, but it could have been murder or self-defense. And those are two opposite spectrums. And depending on the nature of what happened in between, right? Those are the gray areas. PR navigates those gray areas to give the public a perception. And that's really helpful in many ways.
We've got to go now, but before then, if anyone wants to go into brand communications, what would you say are the most important things they should know? And is it just a walkthrough if you're a great writer and if you know a few more things?
I've always said that doers would always thrive better than people who just dream. That's something that I really believe since the first day that I read it with, I think a speech session, the Rhymes gave one time at Dartmouth University, I think. It stuck with me, because if someone wakes up every morning and does, versus someone who is just dreaming, the person who is doing is going to make more progress, is going to create more ripple effects where people would remember them for the things that they are doing, that they can sort of hold on to and say, oh, this person did this, and that, and this, and that, and they're memorable. It's how people say Ronaldo is a hard worker, Messi is a natural born talent. They're both successful, but one person worked extra hard to prove that I can decide not to be mediocre, right? So it's possible, even if you don't have the natural skill to write, to weave words, to design, whatever, you can still find your place in branding. You might be really good at strategy. There's just a place for you, right? That's number one. Number two is different types of people have different types of things, that's different ways of learning. Some people learn through experience, so maybe studying under someone who is already good. Some people learn through consuming materials, right? So it means you can be self-taught. You would make a lot of mistakes, but you will catch on. You could go to school to structure it, go through structured learning, but also be open to experimenting enough so you can make your own realities and things that you also believe in, so you can teach other people as well. Keep abreast with what's going on in the world, because the more we move on, now there's Web3, the phase of branding and communications is also evolving, right? So you can't just take it exactly how it used to be before. So all of these things are happening all at once, and you have to think about that. So yeah, those are like places I would say maybe start. You could also just interrogate yourself and say, what's the best way that I have learned in the past, and how can I leverage that to get me to the next level? Well, you can work in an agency, you could intern under the agency. People will teach you. You will learn by looking, watching. But the most important thing is that you would only learn if you're doing. So you have to learn by doing. Funny COVID story. I baked bread. I don't know, you guys must have seen this. I tried to bake bread during COVID because I was scared that the people who will be breaking my bread, someone might just cough now. I just can't COVID. I know.
Legit fear.
I know I sound crazy. But yeah. So I looked for YouTube videos. Or I was like, this bread stuff, let me see. How this to bake it? I see 5 minutes video, 2 minutes. Is bread easy like this? I was really excited. I'm like, this bread, we bake it today. I tried to bake the bread. I succeeded though. Like, I must say that I succeeded.
But the stress.
But it was not 5 minutes. So what? Because the bread there's this moment you have to wait for it to rise.
Yeah.
And there are different layers where you have to wait. Like there's just this waiting, right? And it's fine. It's okay.
Your tone sounds like you went through a lot.
I did.
Over an hour.
2.
There you go.
2. The bread was perfect. I mean, well, not perfect, but it was great. I mean, it finished before I could even finish taking all the pictures I wanted to take to say this is my first bread. So I now became overconfident that my shoulder pad is good. Safe to say that my second bread sucked. It burnt outside. It didn't get done inside. I was just like, what's going on? But it was overconfidence because I didn't even try to use a recipe. I was trying to form. I remember what I did before. I started to Google, what did I do wrong? Why did it not work out? Blah, blah, blah. The real story was I poured cold milk in my yeast, and so it didn't react. And apparently, yeast only reacts when you use warm stuff. I'm a smart girl. I am smart, but I didn't know that.
Biochemist
in the word, but I didn't know that. And I also realized that the realities of the person that I was learning from were pretty different from mine. Her oven was different. Like my oven, I could not control the temperature. I couldn't control the temperature, but hers, she could. And she was saying all these 400 degrees, 250 degrees. I'm like,
all of those
any degree you reach,
it's hot.
And this is weird because we never used to bake in my house, so we never really noticed that there was anything wrong with the oven. It was a wedding gift until that
That's
day.
a big bread.
And first bread worked out, I must say, it worked out. But this one, just because of all the factors, I collected a lot. Third time, I decided to follow the recipe religiously. Fourth time, I tried. Then sometimes I'll follow half, I won't follow half. Then I started to experiment. My hands began to get stronger. I started making banana bread, actual banana bread, not cake bread. The banana like we used. It was nice. And I became an expert at some point. I was not even experimenting, right, and doing really interesting things. Why am I telling you this story? It's that everything I've said here, probably 1 hour, you're not going to learn it in 1 hour. You're going to spend a while, probably 10 years or 5 years or years, 1 year perfecting it. And the only way that you would get better is truly by doing. And that applies to anywhere that you work, anything that you study, any school that you go. It's going to take you a while to practice and really, come into your own. But even more importantly, experimentation is key. Now, this is where my biochemistry part comes in. The goal of an experiment is not to be right, but to discover, right? So you're not trying to be right when you mix X and Y. You're trying to discover, is there another way to do this? So embrace experiments. They're not going to all be perfect. Yeah. Some won't go the way that you intend, but grab the lessons. What can you learn from that? Did you just discover a new way to do something else? Pick that. And the more you experiment, the stronger your hand becomes, the more confident you become, and you just evolve all through it, right? So that's one good way that you can go about that.
Dr. Blessing Abeng.
That's me.
Former co-founder Disha and now CMO and co-founder Ingressive for Good. Thank you so much for your time on the podcast. We've had a really, really insightful time. I said it was going to be a really cool one. I told you.
Thank you for trusting me.
Thank you for coming on the podcast. Leave a comment below, guys, on what your takeaways have been. And don't forget to also follow Blessing across social media platforms at Blessing Abeng. And all the links that she has mentioned, which we can share, we'll make sure that we share them wherever you are listening or watching this on. I am Belarus Okoje Durji once again.
Take out, yeah.
See you guys next time.
Peace.
Bye.